crikey, it's like I've gone back 100 years in time. What's up with this fog? It's getting cold. Catch you inside.
RevelatorAlf.
Hello, welcome to RevelatorAlf. I hope you're all well in these testing times. So, look, on my ride into work this morning, silly o'clock in the morning. Yeah, the air is changing, the light is changing. Certainly the fog has caught me by surprise this morning. But on my clear specs, they've all got fogged up as well. But it's almost like there's a bit of grit in the air. And I noticed this the other night, and I got to thinking, actually, is it time I changed my air cleaner? So that's what I did. Now, I was looking around at different air cleaners and the claims that they make, air filters, right, air filters, and the claims that they make, or the manufacturers make, and even the ones from Harley Davidson, Screaming Eagle, the ones that they make, you know, there's 60% more filtration coverage, and that allows 11% more airflow. And you look at all these other air filter manufacturers, let's say, and they all claim, yeah, it's going to increase your horsepower and it's going to increase your airflow by 5% and 10% and all this kind of stuff. But I rarely find anywhere, in fact, I've never found anywhere where it gives you a specific figure from your stock air filter and then also what the difference will be with the new air filter. It's very hard to decide which is the right way to go. Now really, I suppose you could argue that if you did away with the air cleaner completely, that would provide the best airflow into your engine. That would give you the best performance, right? The airflow is unobstructed and it just goes in and gives you all that bang for your buck, as it were. However, as we know, contaminants can also get in, so hence why you have a filter. But actually, the larger the filter, the bigger the physical size of the filter, you're still going to get the same air cleaning qualities by the filter, but you're actually going to allow more airflow through. So it stands to reason that the bigger the air filter, the better it's going to be. But let's face it, who wants to ride a motorcycle with a big mushroom on steroids on the side of their bike? Not me. Well, maybe some people will, but certainly not me. So you kind of look at the different air filters that are out there and, you know, all the big names that they're given and what they're supposed to give you. But there isn't really anything that you, as just a normal buyer, a normal rider, can sink your teeth into and say, yeah, that is definitely going to give me XYZ performance gain. You might get a feeling of it, it might give you that performance gain, but there's nothing that you can say before you buy it that actually will. Now, one of my biggest things was that I wanted to keep the stock appearance and I wanted to keep the air filter cover on my bike, and the reason is I ride all year round, right, and in the winter the bike gets absolutely covered in crud, so I know that either with an exposed air filter or even with a sock it just wouldn't work. So I wanted to have something that would just fit in there. I wasn't convinced by the big claims of different air filter makes and models, and I've always used K&N filters in the past as well, and I quite like them. And one of the reasons I like them as well, because, well, they're a good brand, but also they're affordable and they're reusable. So I was looking for an air filter for this bike, the Sport Glide on the Softails. You can get a stock replacement for about £69–70 from K&N Filters directly. However, they're all out of stock in this country anyway. Now there might be abroad, and you can actually import them as well. So you do a little search around and you might even be able to find them on eBay for about £68–69, let's say. And they're coming from dealerships or motorcycle shops that just happen to have them and they're trying to sell them, right? Okay, but then I found one for £45. So basically I'm saving what, 30%, something like that, 33% on the price, but it was a used one. And a used one, it had about 450–500 miles, and I thought, should I really be buying a used air filter? But then I got to think, well, actually it doesn't really matter, because it's a reusable one. You can wash it out and then, you know, use it again. So that's what I did. I actually got it and it's arrived, and I'm just going to fit it tomorrow. Simples. Now, am I expecting big changes in performance? No. Am I expecting probably a little bit of a difference? Maybe if I feel a little difference? Possibly, but I'm not expecting it. And I think this is a difference here between what we expect and what we actually find. So I suppose the only real way you're ever going to notice whether an air filter change makes any difference to your performance. I'm not talking about looks, okay? I'm not talking about the aesthetics, because that is a purely subjective thing. If you want a big sucker, if you want a big, you know, mushroom on the side of your motorcycle, that's entirely up to you. You know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, of course. But I'm just talking about performance. The only way you're going to really know, I suppose, if you stick it on the dyno. But if you consider this, if you live in a really hot, humid country and you have a certain air filter on your bike, because the air is hot and humid, it's basically less dense. So less dense air, it doesn't matter what filter you've got on your bike, getting into your combustion chamber means less combustion, let's say, and less power being created. Therefore, you're onto a loser anyway. However, for the same air filter on the same bike in a really cold country, that's more cold, dense air going into your combustion chamber, and you're going to get more horsepower being delivered on the power stroke. You know, it's what do? Do you go and live in a cold country, or do you just live where you live in a hot country? So sometimes you can make what you think is going to be a big change to your performance just by changing an air filter, but it doesn't really, because one of the biggest factors is actually where you live, not only in terms of temperature but also in terms of altitude as well. So if you live high up in the mountains, you're going to suffer as well, relatively so. If you live at sea level, you know, you're going to be a lot better off. So at sea level, in really cold temperatures, that's the way to go. But anyway, so that's the way I've gone. I've basically, you know, got this new air filter. It's arrived. I'm gonna fit it, and you know, it's a second-hand air filter. I don't really worry about that. I don't really worry about putting used parts on my bike. That isn't really an issue. But I suppose the question now is, with the new M8 engines, because they are really good in my opinion into, you know, their performance that they deliver and all that, are people that concerned about putting different types of air filters on their bikes these days, or is stock more the way to go, or making minor changes? Now for me, I've always said I much prefer the minor changes rather than the big changes, not only in terms of cost but also in terms of the actual difference in performance it actually makes, and then overall the looks, whether I actually like the looks or not. Anyway, enough of that. I really need to get on to work. But let us know what you think in the comments about this. Let us know, would you put a second-hand air filter on your bike? Would you put a K&N filter, a replacement stock filter, on your bike? Or would you go for some aftermarket thing? Now, I know people do this purely for the looks, to change the looks, just in the same way that they change an exhaust, primarily for the noise, the change in noise or change in tone, rather than any performance gain. Now, as we know, with the M8 engines especially, there's about 10% latitude in the ECM, so actually just by changing the air filter you don't need to retune the bike either. So if you haven't got a tuner, if you haven't got a stage 1 on it, it's unimportant. The same as if you just did the exhaust, you don't have to do anything. So it's a simple swap. Undo a few bolts, take the cover off, undo the bolts of the air filter, take that out, put the new one in, bolts in, torque down, cover on, bolts on, torque those down if you want to, bish bash bosh, done. Right, best I go and have a coffee, I think, after all that jibber jabber. Yeah. Oh yeah, it was really cold this morning, did I say that? Time for some new gloves, I think. New heated gloves. Video coming soon. How am I going to power them? Oh yeah, I might have a system for that. Check out that Hex EasyCan video. More on that coming very soon. Ta-da!